Hello, this is my Aunt Sharon. She is my mother's older sister, and I chose her to interview for my History of the Americas Ancestry project. So our first question is, where did our family come from?
Well, our family came from Poland. It would have been my great-grandparents, Emma's great-great-grandparents. They came from a town that I probably can't pronounce very well, but where was it here? Draganawi, Poland.
Interesting.
Farmer was my great-great-grandfather for her, and the housekeeper was the great-great-grandmother.
All right. And how do you know this?
We happen to have a family member who did an extensive genealogy study. So we actually start at that point. We haven't gone farther back than that, but we have started back then.
What year was that?
We have them being born in 1883 was my great-grandmother, and 1875 was my great-grandfather, and they migrated to the U.S. in 1901.
Wow, that's cool. How many generations can you trace back from?
So if we go with, we have what would Andrew be?
I guess the second generation.
He's the next generation. So we started then, you're in the second generation. I'm in the third generation. My parents would be the fourth. Their parents would be the fifth, so we go back 6 generations.
From the present date.
From the present date now. Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. So, can you recall some names of our family members?
Oh, well, actually, if I would have went with my great-great-grandparents, it would be Simone Shementowski and Zofia, oh lordy B, this is a mouthful, Justzgmska. That's a mouthful. Do you want to try to spell? You want to try to say that? We actually have it written down here.
Justerska.
Something like that.
Yeah, Polish names are known for being hard to pronounce, and also they're not phonetically pronounced as well. Like they don't sound how they're spelled.
But that name then translated through the generations. My maiden name was Plizga, which would be her mom's maiden name also. So we kind of relate to the Plizga in that.
Definitely. So places of birth, again, we know it was Poland, but and then the city was?
Graganowie. It looks like Draganawi to me, Poland.
Wow.
With the last generation being born there, then they migrated and they were in the Pennsylvania area, which my father was born in Jessup. My grandparents would have been in Jessup and Scranton, Pennsylvania area, which you might be familiar with Scranton because that's a little bit bigger city. And when they migrated there, we owned a hotel, little hotel, and I was able to visit that when I was young. That was kind of cool.
Really cool. Yeah. And then birthdays, of course. We said that it was in the 1800s. So Stanley.
Yep, Stanley was May 5th of 1875, and Mariana was February 2nd of 1883.
Wow.
Over 100 years.
Wow.
Well over 100.
So the next question is, do we have any Army veterans in our family?
Well, I don't really go very far back with the Army veteran story, other than what would have been my uncles. I had my dad was one of 5 boys and 3 girls in his family, and which would be your grandfather. And his oldest brother was in the Navy. I do know he was in the Navy. Didn't make a career out of it, but he did his 4 years. Out of the 5 boys in their family, the rest of them went to college, with the exception of my dad, who ended up being in the Korean War, but he was injured in boot camp and discharged, so he never actually served time other than boot camp. So we don't have a whole lot of military background.
Yeah. So can you tell me any interesting stories about our family history?
Yes, we do. Our family stories is really a very close family. Always getting together and having lots of family traditions, like a yearly family picnic always occurred once a year, and we always had games. People got together. We had a family flag that said Plizga on it. We always had lots of beer drinking and dancing and joking around. Lots of uncles were always joking and teasing. So that was always very, very important to attend that yearly picnic. And Christmas was always another season with Santa Claus always coming in person and everybody spending the day together. Family was very important. Everybody stayed very, very close. Got together every Sunday at Grandma's house, and that's how families were way back then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In fact, even like to think about it, when my grandparents moved to Michigan, you know, they lived with like their parents, or when my parents were building a house, they lived with their parents. So you had that kind of stuff going on that doesn't occur nowadays. But yeah, close family.
Yeah, and the last question was about genealogical records, but obviously we have this.
We do have this
Very
really
cool.
nice, very large book. It has everybody, it has pictures of people when they got married, it has their children, although it needs to be updated. We don't have the updated version in front of us, but I know the person that put this study together has been keeping it up. Yep, so it's really kind of cool.
All right, yeah. Perfect. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're very proud to be a Plizga.
Yeah. I'm here with my mom, and my mom comes from Polish ancestry, and the question that I'm going to ask her is, what kind of examples of Polish heritage did you experience when you were growing up?
Most notably, food and music. Every time we'd have any sort of celebration, whether it be Christmas or weddings or festivals and picnics in the summertime, we would definitely listen to Polish music and polka, which was always fun, and also food, which was a part of all of our celebrations. We would have pierogi, we would have stuffed cabbage, we would have kielbasa, and those would be made by my grandmother and other older women in the community or the family. Those are the two main things I remember.
Your paternal grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How do you think your ancestors adapted to American culture? What did they have to do, or what sacrifices did they have to make?
Well, some of the sacrifices they had to make was by not being able to communicate and see their family from the old country, as they would call it. Let's say Poland and Germany. You know, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the sort of communication that we have today. People would write letters, and that would be it. So the sacrifice they had to make was to leave everything that they knew behind and create a new life in the United States. And I know that they settled in a town called Hamtramck, which is a town that is completely encompassed in the city of Detroit. And for many, many decades, it was a largely Polish population. It was a high density of Polish immigrants that lived there. So in one respect, that became their family. They all huddled together in this neighborhood, this city in Detroit, and created this home away from home, a Poland outside of Poland. In fact, that's what the city's nickname was for many years, was Little Poland. In a little side note, actually, Pope John Paul II, who was originally from Poland, born and raised there, actually visited Hamtramck when he came to the U.S. and visited Michigan in 1987, I think it was, because of its reputation of being like a little Poland. So you had Polish markets, people spoke Polish to each other, and they were able to find the foods and the sausages and the things that they missed from home. That was something that probably comforted them. But one sacrifice they made, like I said, leaving all of their family and all that they knew in Poland, is in another respect they left their languages behind, because both my parents knew almost nothing, no German or Polish, even though their parents could speak it. So I think that they wanted to leave those old traditions behind and have a better life for their children. So they thought that they wanted their kids to speak mainly English, so they didn't teach them Polish, they didn't teach them German. they didn't talk a lot about what their life was like in Eastern Europe. They wanted to leave that behind and have a better life, like I said, for their children in the new country. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and like I know that they weren't very wealthy. Your extended family, they probably
Right. They weren't able to go back to visit their family. Both of my parents grew up with no relatives here in the United States. They didn't have cousins like you do. They didn't have aunts and uncles like you do. Everybody was left behind, and they didn't know them because you just didn't communicate. Because the only way you could communicate was through letters, of course.
Yeah.
So.